like we talk about survival of the fittest and things like this. That's not necessarily like fittest from a physical perspective and strongest. It's survival of the fittest are the people that can adapt to the situation the fastest. Over the course of a decade in the military, I got to see some ordinary people do some truly extraordinary things. I started to believe that we're all capable of so much more than we could ever imagine. Now, I'm on a mission to unleash human potential. Whether that's through exercise, nutrition, lifestyle or vacation, it all starts with mindset. Strive for greatness, despise mediocrity, and accept nothing but the best that you can be.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new Unleashing Potential podcast. This recording is brought to you from two places at one time. So we've got CrossFit Grovedale owner Erin Summers, if you don't already know him, jumping in from Australia. I'm Molly, and I'm hopping in from America. Erin's probably just finishing his morning coffee, and I just finished my dinner. How are you doing today, Erin? Even though we already spoke a little bit.
I'm doing all right. Still pretty early in the morning. I'm excited about watching the new Michael Jordan documentary that came out last night. Episode 1 of 10, I believe. So I'm pretty hyped to be watching that later on today.
Yeah, good. That sounds awesome. Maybe I'll have to give it a look if it's on here in America. Thank you for everyone who's joining us today. For those of you who don't know Erin or me or any of our story, Erin is a 10-year military veteran, an 18-month gym owner, and pretty much a lifetime risk taker. He's done some crazy stuff. Erin is not just someone who I enjoy his company or who I enjoy looking at, but I get to experience the knowledge and passion that Erin has every single day for life, fitness, mental health, and just helping others. It's really something that he's passionate about, and I feel like it's not fair for me to hog all of his knowledge. It's time for others to get a chance to listen in as well. And I hope anyone listening, even if it's just one person, really gets inspired by him like I do, like every single day. So today we are going to start off this Unleashing podcast series by taking the time to chat about COVID-19, because that's just kind of the height of everything that's going on, and the importance of mental fitness, especially in these times. We will dive into some Q&As from our current members at CrossFit Grovedale as well. So Erin, I think the proper question to start off and dive into is why? Why a podcast? Why now?
Well, firstly, the idea for a podcast is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And I'm constantly telling my members, one, that they should challenge themselves to do hard things, constantly, all the time. Two, I said during this time of COVID, where we're locked down in isolation, we have a little bit more time up our sleeve. Use this opportunity to do something that you've been meaning to do for a while. So just basically putting my money where my mouth is, trying to walk the talk. We got 2 points there for cliches in one go. And so I'm trying to do that and show and set an example. So this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. I do have a message. I love talking about this kind of stuff, mental fitness, particularly, but also CrossFit in general. So I have a message. I like to get it out there. Secondly, it was my idea for a podcast, but obviously I didn't write the script at the start of this. I hope nobody thinks that that's my script.
Really boast me up there, Molly.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, writing that. But yeah, here we are. Podcast 1.
Why mental fitness? Why mental fitness? And I mean, for someone who's never heard of it before, mental fitness versus kind of just fitness in general, what's the relation?
Yeah, good question. So mental fitness is a kind of a new-ish term, but it's what we used to call mental toughness. So I just think the differentiation now, we're starting to use the word fitness instead of toughness. Toughness almost implies that you're born with it, and you either have it or you don't. Like when I think about toughness, I just think about that street fighter kid who can just keep fighting off a crowd, and just keep taking hits. But it kind of does suggest that it's something you're born with. Whereas fitness, we can start to see it as more of a scale. It's not such a dichotomy. It's not you have it or you don't. It's something that you can build, train, and improve over time. And it's on a scale. It's not something that you just one day you have it. Like you have to work at it just like fitness. So I think fitness at least brings in that kind of element. Like, so that's where the term mental fitness comes from. Effectively, like the shortest way I can answer that, I think mental fitness is our ability to be flexible to a situation and to adapt mentally without breaking down. So physical fitness in the same way. If the fitter you are, the more you are able to cope with a physical situation as it arises. Mental fitness the same. The more mentally fit we are, the more we can handle a situation as it arises, but handle it from a mental perspective. So we're not gonna roll into like we get thrown in a situation. We're not just going to kind of bottle up and break down. We want to be able to roll with that. So I think that's kind of, in summary, like what I believe mental fitness is.
I like it. I like it. Let's dive into a few questions. So especially with this being our first episode, the best thing that we thought was just kind of hand it over to the members a little bit. We gave them a few days to, what questions do you guys want answered? And we kind of saw what we got. I'm sure at this point everyone is tired of hearing of COVID-19, and all the crazy times that are going on, but we got some people that want some answers, so we'll kind of dive into it a little bit. We are going to stay training and mental fitness specific now. We did get some nutritional questions and other ones relating to other topics that we'll touch on in later podcasts. So we'll kind of go through a little bit of a series. As mentioned, they are all kind of related to COVID-19 in the current time. So in addressing to you, Erin, the questions will be, during this time, either talk about when this first started or in the future in relation, what is your biggest fear? So let's kind of break that down for a second. What is your biggest fear with your gym? Either when this started, what are you feeling now? Kind of like the biggest fear out of all of this craziness.
Yeah. So from a gym perspective, I think early on, my biggest fear, and I did mention this a few times, but my biggest fear early on was that the response to this from people was going to be more detrimental than the actual disease itself. And I've got to change my perspective on that a little bit. Obviously, like not a little bit, a lot. I now believe that at first I wasn't buying into the virus. Now I have. So at first I thought the response to this was going to be so over the top that gyms would close, which they did, but I don't think it was over the top, but they did close. And my biggest fear was that the business wouldn't survive. So that was, from a business perspective, that was definitely my biggest fear. But from there, we've pivoted the way that we're doing things, and we've had some awesome members on site. So that's no longer a fear. We will survive this now. I'm confident of that. We'll get through the other side. What that looks like is going to be different, and who knows how long it's going to be, but we will get through. So that's not a fear of mine anymore. Now, I guess from a gym perspective, I guess my biggest fear for the gym.
Maybe you don't have any fears.
Probably not fears. I'm not too concerned. I do worry that that people will forget the lessons they're learning in this. So the gratitude and the having a appreciation for the small things and how much they love training and how much they miss the barbells. And I'm getting texts every day, I miss the barbell. So I fear that people will lose sight of that once we go back to some sort of normalcy. But I don't have a lot of huge fears in terms of our gym. In terms of the gym industry, I really I feel for, we're going to lose a lot of gyms, CrossFit, F45s, Globo gyms, all we will lose a lot. There will be some that go under, and I feel for the owners because I can appreciate their situation, and I really feel for those people who will go under, and I feel for the members who will lose that community. They will find somewhere else to train. That's not a problem. They will find a gym to go to, but they will lose their community that they built, and it's never quite the same.
Yeah. Going on the other spectrum of that, because there always has to be an answer to this, and I understand it's hard for people to find, but you got to find it, is a blessing that can be found in these times to this date or whatever. What's a blessing? So here we could either talk about the gym perspective or talk about a personal blessing that you have found out of these times.
Yeah, I think they kind of might go hand in hand here, but we'll stick with the gym for now. But I think the biggest blessing from the gym is Well, a couple of things. One, we've got to experiment now with this customization of programming. And I think we'll get more into that in a future podcast, but I think that there's a lot of value here, and I really see it as the future of CrossFit gyms. So I've had the opportunity to trial something under fire that I've been wanting to do for a long time now. Hand was forced, so it pushed people into a position where it was just thrown on them, and now they're getting to experience it. So from a gym perspective, I think that's a huge blessing to come out of this, that we can see the benefits of customization. I think from the management of the gym, I've learned a lot of invaluable lessons. The importance of systems and values, and understanding your values prior to making any decisions. That's going to go a long way in the future of the gym when we do open back up and rebuild. We'll have a much clearer understanding of our values, a much probably as a team, we'll probably hopefully work a lot better as one single unit. So a lot of business principles have been exposed or have been shown how solid they've been. So there's a blessing there in terms of learning business principles in a very fast situation.
Yeah, had to adjust on the fly. And then on the other spectrum, so it all kind of relates, right? We found a biggest fear of investing. What do you think? And this is just a shot in the dark, right? We don't know. Everything's changing literally every single day. What's next, or what is something that could be next in the future once things slowly start to open back up and people slowly crawl out of their houses? What do you think are some things that are next?
Yeah, I think the world has changed now forever, possibly, at least for foreseeable future. So, and I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing or not. We're going to have to let go of some human rights. I think we're seeing the introduction of iPhone apps that are going to track us, and whether we've had this and gotten through it, or we haven't had it yet, and people, the government, are going to be following us on that. Whether you think they're already doing it or not, that's a different question.
They are.
Guaranteed. So I think sporting events and anything where there's a big gathering of people, you're going to have to use that iPhone app that scan it in. It says, yes, I've had this and I've passed it and I'm clear to go in. And that's the world. It's going to be the same. You're going to get on an airplane. You're going to have to scan your app, and they're going to take a temperature test of your head. Like, this is just the world that we're going to be living in for foreseeable future. I don't think it's I think it's a pretty good response to the situation we're in. So I think things are going to change. Like, it's going to require things like that to be able to get into big events. Gyms, I think there's going to be some kind of change in the gym industry in terms of sanitizing equipment, and maybe some laws brought in to say that it has to be like thoroughly sanitized by a professional cleaner X amount of times a week or whatever. I think there'd be some changes there. How many people are allowed in a group class, I think, may change, some of that kind of stuff. So I definitely think there'll be some changes. I don't think it's necessarily for the bad. It's just the way we're going to have to kind of move forward from here.
Yeah, and this is something me and you were chatting about yesterday, and because it's a unique situation, because we're kind of we're doing this podcast in the sense of being two different countries, and I was questioning, the way that things lay out there, is it possible to have that layout across the whole world, or even in comparison to what they try to lay out there in Australia? Is it possible to really enforce that here in the US? I mean, government is so different and the people are so different.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think this is from an Australian perspective. From America's perspective, I don't know. I don't even think the president knows, so we'll see.
Oh, that will be interesting. Okay, another question coming in was more on a personal level with how are you dealing and coping with this individually?
Yeah, I mean, like anybody, there's ups and downs, but I don't see like, how would I word this? I think I'm doing really well, to be honest, like straight up.
Better than most of us.
Right. And I think I would classify myself as having a strong level of mental fitness. And I believe that's what's got me through. So well, I'll dive in a little deeper into how and what I mean by that. But I think that's allowed me to get here. Like, we talk about survival of the fittest and things like this. That's not necessarily like fittest from a physical perspective and strongest. It's survival of the fittest are the people that can adapt to the situation the fastest. That's what's going to make the species survive. Your ability to adapt to a constantly changing scenario. And that's kind of what happened. So even from the start, I viewed this as, this is something I've trained for my entire life. And whether it be mentally or physically, I've been training every day for my life in case something like this happened and we were tested. Then I'd be able to respond. And like I said, you have your ups and downs, but for the most part, for me, I think that I've responded quite well, and I think that my mental fitness has been the reason beyond that.
You've been training for a pandemic, or you've just been training
Yeah.
for something that's going to come flip our lives upside down?
Exactly. I mean, we say it jokingly, but it has a point.
Right. Yeah.
The unknown and the unknowable. That's what we talk about in CrossFit. We train for the unknown and the unknowable. And an example that I heard on Ben Bergeron podcast is, if you think about a doomsday prepper, right? They're building bunkers and they're doing all their stuff, and they're preparing themselves for one single event. Well, then this rolls up. Now what? They're going to go down in their bunker and live? Yeah, probably. It's a way to isolate. But why did they buy all those guns? What are they going to shoot with their millions of dollars of guns? They prepared for one event. We train in CrossFit and in life to be prepared for any event. We might not be perfectly prepared for the zombies when they show up, but we are prepared for anything. So, and that's the idea of unknown and unknowable. You prepare yourself for any event rather than just for one specific event. And that's why we do CrossFit as opposed to just run marathons. Like, we want to be able to adapt to everything. And I mean, mental fitness works in the same way. We want to be able to adapt to any situation, not just build ourselves up so that we can be really good at responding to one situation. But then as soon as that turn on its head, we buckle. So we want to be able to respond to any. And I think this is where the term mental fitness really comes in, because we need to
I would buckle to a zombie apocalypse, I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm waiting for. That was what I was secretly training for, and we got hit with this one. But yeah, just to get into the mental fitness side, it is a skill that we train. So it works on the same principles as physical training, and the unknown, the unknowable is key here. So the way that the physical, like, is, without getting too deep into it, the way that we respond to training is we overreach. It breaks our body down just a little bit, and then our body goes into recovery and comes back stronger, so that next time what used to be a reach becomes a normal. That's called adaptation, and that's called the overload principle. It's a principle of training. We overreach, we break down just a little bit. That becomes our new normal once we recover, and then we overreach again, and we just continue that cycle until we getting stronger and stronger, or fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter, because every day we keep working on that and we keep overreaching. Mental fitness works the same way. We need to challenge ourselves. That becomes a new normal, and what used to be a challenging situation you can now deal with easily because you've already exposed yourself to it and you've adapted. And then you expose yourself to something more challenging, and then you adapt, and then you expose yourself to something more challenging. What we tend to do is, with physical training, especially the people listening to this podcast, we all train. We're all working out. We're all happy to do that physical challenge to adapt. But a lot of us aren't willing to expose ourselves to mental challenge. And even a lot of these mental challenges we can do through physical exposure. So, you know, as humans, as soon as it gets a little bit too cold, we turn the heater on. As soon as it gets a little bit too hot, we turn the AC on. If it's raining outside, we come indoors. Like, we go out of our way to be comfortable, which is kind of working backwards to how we build mental resilience. We want to expose ourselves little by little and build that process over years. You're not going to become mentally fit overnight or over the weekend. You have to be exposing yourself a little bit at a time until it all starts to build up. Start to do your runs at the gym when it's raining instead of just jumping on that roller. It's raining outside. Like, who cares? Get your run in, get wet. Next time you're locked out of your car at Warren Ponds Shopping Center and it's pissing rain, you're not going to buckle, because you remember
You're not
that
gonna
time
melt.
that like a witch. So it's about exposing ourselves deliberately to challenges and uncomfortable situations so that we can look back and realize, like when we are turned on our heads, it's not the end of the world. And the military provides a good example of this. We spend our whole careers being exposed to hardship, not knowing why, because the idea is that we train hard to fight easy. So we overexpose ourselves to situations so that when the real world comes along and tries to tip us on our head, we can adjust. So I don't fear, I don't worry if I'm going to knowingly not sleep for a night or two, because I can look back and say, well, remember that time you went 4 nights in the army and you didn't sleep and you survived. So I know that if I have a night coming up where I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to stress about that because I have something to go off. I've built that mental fitness in the past by exposing myself, not by my choice. I was thrown into that situation, but I know that I can get through a night without sleep because I know I can get through 4. Likewise with food, deliberately expose myself to a 5-day fast once where all I did was drink water for 5 days. Now I don't fear missing a meal because I missed a lot. I don't know, 15 of them once. So
I'll have enough fear for the both of us if I miss a meal.
but that's all part of it. So we just build on this mental fitness by exposing ourselves to challenges. And I've been pushing people through my blogs for a long time now, trying to say, do something that you don't like, do something that you don't enjoy. I'm a very outspoken hater of long distance running, not because I don't think it has a place. I just don't enjoy it. It hurts me personally. I signed up for a marathon. Like, why? The only reason is because I continually want to expose myself to hardship so that when something like this happens, mentally, I know I can cope with it because hardship doesn't buckle me.
Nice. So I just want to talk briefly on, we've been talking a lot with our members, and since this is about mental fitness, and again, this is a conversation that we've had before. So the term, when people say that they had a bad day, talk about your thoughts very briefly, and what does that mean? Why is it one thing in a day? Why does like one thing happening in someone's day all of a sudden turn to a bad day? And what are ways to kind of change that mindset?
So I think definitely from a mental fitness perspective, one of the elements that I see is super important to mental fitness is the way that we talk to ourselves. So there's a couple of elements here. The first one being that mental fitness is a fitness. We can train it, we can improve it, and we can get better. And there's ways that we'll do that, and I'll get into that shortly. But another element is the way that we talk to ourselves. And words mean a lot. And we might think that one line here and one word there doesn't really add up, but it does. The way you speak to yourself matters. So I think, saying, oh, it's a bad day, that's all right, tomorrow I'll be all right. Yeah, there's an element. I can understand where people are coming from. You are going to have ups and downs through this 100%, but I don't believe in writing off a day. Why do we have to put a calendar time on the amount of time that we're writing off because something went wrong? You wake up in the morning, you stub your toe, and then you spill your coffee. The rest of the day doesn't have to be bad. You could rescue a dog that afternoon or something like, and turn that day around. So don't write off the day because a couple of things are going bad. And just by saying that, you might not mean it. You might be saying, oh, it's just a bad day, but part of you will start to believe that story that you're telling yourself. So
I experience it. Everyone experiences it. And for some odd reason, that's the habit, right? It just takes one thing to happen in 5 minutes, or let's just say even an hour, like one bad event to happen. And for some odd reason, we just have that program of saying like, the rest of the day is screwed. Today is a bad day, and that's it. And we give up by 11 a.m.
Yeah. So I think changing that shift in mindset, call it a bad event. It's just a bad event. I stubbed my toe and I spilled my coffee, whatever, like move on. We've got the rest of the day to make this an awesome day. What worries me more is people writing off 2020. They're saying 2020 sucks. This is the worst year. Can it just be over? Let's start 2021. Well, this is absolutely, like, to me, that's just rubbish. We're halfway through the 4th month. We got 7.5 months left to redeem this year. Like, anything can happen in that time. So yeah, we might be experiencing bad moments, and there's a whole nother topic within that, but let's not write off the year. We've got the whole rest of the year. So events, you might have a bad event, and I could argue that events, there is no good and bad. This is our interpretation of the situation, given the lens we're viewing it at that time, that makes it seem that way. That's a whole nother argument for a whole nother day, whether an event is actually bad. But if you're feeling a negative response to an event, don't write off the day, don't write off the hour. Just say, shit, I didn't enjoy that one, and just move on. Writing off the year, I just think is in absolute insanity.
So let's start small. The focus is, instead of having bad days when something goes on, the main focus for everyone is just to switch the wording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, that was a bad event that just happened. Let's see how the rest of the day goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's step one. Shift that narrative.
Don't focus on 2020.
I think step two is to shift the understanding of what is good and what is bad, because really there's just events. They're not good, they're not bad, they're just events, and how we interpret that and the lens that we view it through is what then makes us think or label it as bad. What's good for me might be bad for somebody else, and vice versa. So there really isn't a good and bad. Yeah, something is going to make you extremely upset and experience pain, but you don't know the lesson that that's going to teach you 10 years down the track. So you don't know that that is a negative event until one day you can look back on your entire life and you'll see that all of those events led you to a certain point. So I don't think labeling event good or bad is the right start. But if you are going to, just label the event. Don't label the day. Don't label the hour, whatever. Don't hate on coffee just because you spilled your coffee. It wasn't the coffee's fault.
Or was it? These days you can blame anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? A quote I read yesterday in one of my yoga classes is let events happen and acknowledge them, but then you just have to let it go. Like, you can't just let the event consume you. You acknowledge it and you know there's a shit thing to happen, but then you just kind of got to move on from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Good one.
And they talk often about we're going to experience pain in our life, and that's fine. Pain is a temporary situation. The difference between pain and suffering is when we just continually bring that pain up mentally and dwell on it. So yeah, if you're, a tragic event will happen in people's lives. That's going to happen, and we are going to feel pain, and that pain might take months, if not years, to get past. If it's a big enough event, it might take a long time to get past. It turns into suffering when we deliberately bring it up in our head to then re-experience the pain. Pain is a natural response. Suffering is when we keep bringing up the same situation and reliving the same pain. Yeah. We need to be able to differentiate the two and remove suffering as much as possible.
I think that is a great place to leave it today. Thanks, Erin.